to every single one of my motivators family. How are you doing? It is Marlene of Marlene Motivates, your channel for motivation, inspiration, positivity, life lessons, mindset shifting. Welcome to the Motivators Marathon, which we do every single month. Every month we do something and talking about everyone something. And today is going to be no different. It's going to be a special one. I hope the point of these monthly conferences is to bring about important conversations, to not get stuck in different mindsets and all of those things. And today is going to be no different. First of all, I have to say, I'm not a doctor. I am not here to give medical advice. I'm just here to share my personal experiences, some of the things that has helped me, and my co-hosts will be doing the same. They will be putting in the work to try to support our mental health. Hold on one second, guys. Okay. They will be doing the same. They will be putting in the work to try to give support to everybody's mental health. And first, I'm going to start off by saying, hey, sis Sugar Love, I put the link in there. Hi, 20CH. How are you doing? Um, I'm here to support mental health. I'm here to talk about important conversations, all of those things. So, yeah, I appreciate you. Hi, Slice of Farming. How are you doing? So, we're going to get started. Today's topic is everyone has their traumas. Okay, everyone has traumas. Yeah, I put the link in there, sis. The link is there. I put the link in first. Before I even got started, I put the link in. Scroll up. Scroll up. I put the link. And I also sent the link to your Instagram as well. I did it. I did the link twice. So, first, I want to say today's topic is everyone has their traumas. And while we're waiting for my sis to come in and to share in this, I think that it's important to say everyone does. Everyone has traumas. Everyone goes through things. And I'm hoping that this conversation and talking about traumas that we have from our childhood to our teen years, adulthood, even past our adulthood, our late adulthood. Um, the hope of this is to get people to have conversations, to talk about things, to not be embarrassed to say X, Y, and Z happened to me. No, this isn't StreamYard. This is can you go in through your Instagram, Sugar Love, and hit the link that I sent to your Instagram because once I'm live, I can't go out and put a link because this isn't StreamYard. I put the link in before I got started. Hold on, let me look. I'm gonna go in through another channel, but I'm positive I dropped the link before I got started. I'm positive. Let me go in through my Instagram and try to find it. But um, anybody who's here, I wanted to say to all of you, please be encouraged. Please be encouraged because sometimes we go through certain things in our lives that hmm, When I tell you it's difficult, let me copy this and I can put it into the chat here. Oh, I didn't mod my own self coming in. Hold on. I think it came up. Did it come up? Let me go in through my other channel. I'll try it again. Hey, realist, how are you doing? Welcome in. Let me do this. I'll come in through this channel and I'll do it again. Here we go. There it goes, Sugar Love. You can hit that link. That's only for Sugar Love. So I want to say hi to everybody. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for your support. Hi, Angela. Hi, Realist One. Hey, everybody in the background. We're about to get started on today's topic and discussion. Hi, Shonda's Graphics. How are you doing? Welcome in, everybody. So here we go. Today, we're going to be talking about everyone has their traumas. I don't know how many of you have been through something recently, or is something that happened to you when you were a child, or is something that's happening to you right now. We're going to get into talking about so many different things that are so important. So, today's topic is everyone has their traumas, okay? And this is a marathon, and I want you all to participate. Tell me how you feel, what you have been through, what you currently are going through, because I want there to be elevation, confrontation, adjustment, and most importantly, healing, okay? Healing. That's very important to today's discussion. Healing, because a lot of times we stay into this mode of thinking we're because of embarrassment, because X, Y, and Z has said certain things, or because we've hidden things for so long, or because of our relatives or how other people like to handle theirs. They make us feel that we have to handle our situations and our traumas like other people. No two people are the same. Everyone is different. Everyone handles things differently. You're on your computer. Yes, sis, you have to be on your phone. Is it possible for you to get on your phone? Um, every single person, they go through things. Every single person. So, first, while we're waiting for my co host, I'm going to start talking about trauma. Okay. Trauma, it comes from the Greek word traumat. Do you guys know that? Trauma comes from the Greek word traumat, and traumat means wound. And I think that it's appropriate to say that all traumas put wounds on us. All traumas put a wound, a scar, a hurt, a pain, a difficulty on us. And if we don't go and do some research, do some conversations, bring about some healing, we will stay stuck in being traumatized our whole life. That's something that I had to learn. For many years, I stayed hiding my traumas. I wanted to ignore it because of the pain, because of the hurt, because of the embarrassment, because of what would other people think about me? What would the other people, their judgments and X, Y, and Z, whatever. Because some traumas we do to ourselves, some traumas happen to us. And we're going to talk about the levels of traumas and all of those things, okay? So a trauma can be stressful or a frightening experience that can cause lasting psychological and physical effects on a person. So has something happened to you in your life that has been traumatic, very stressful, very frightening experience, causing lasting psychological and physical effects on you as a woman or on you as a man? It's most likely because everyone goes through situations, everyone goes through traumas, everyone deals with something from time to time. but it's how we look at it, how we cope with it, or when we don't. See, that's the difference. I know the majority of people, when a traumatic thing happens to them, based on who you're around, if you're around healthy people, healed people, they'll want for you to confront the trauma. They'll want you to assist in your healing and all of those things. But when you're around toxic people, it's like the trauma gets elevated. It's like they add to the pain. They worsen it. They make it worse for you to not even you don't even want to ignore, you like go into a shell, you want to hide, run away, and do all of those things, and even get into why some people, when they experience some traumatic events and things in their life, why they get into some vices, and we know what vices are. um, Drugs, alcohol, smoking, drinking, sex addictions. There's a lot of things that we can get into. Um, if it causes if things cause us pain, okay? If things cause us hurt in our life, one of the most important things that we have to do is we have to reach out and get the help that we need. And most of the time when we go through situations in our life, we don't want to reach out. I know I didn't want to. When I experienced traumas in my life, I wanted to hide under the floor, you know? It's all of those things that I think is something that is important in our life, is for us to not hide away, not run away from our difficulties and our traumas, but to understand that what happened to me wasn't right. What I dealt with, what I'm going through is not right. There's certain things that nobody should have to go through, from a child to a preteen to a teen to an adult to an older adult. It doesn't matter your age. A trauma is a trauma. Okay. So let's get into talking about some of the things that we have to understand when we talk about traumas and things. A trauma can be a single event, or a trauma can be a series of events. I know that people go through a lot of things happening back to back to back. This happens as a child, then something happens as a preteen, something else happens in your mid to early 20s, and on it goes. But if we keep ignoring traumatic things, it won't let you in this way either. I don't know, sis. I don't know. All I know is you have to click on the link. Are you going through your telephone? I'll put the link in again because I don't have StreamYard anymore. So all I have now is YouTube Live. So I don't know. I don't know what to say. You're on your phone and you're clicking this link. It should let you in. I don't know what to say after that, sis. You know, one of the things that I think is important for us to talk about is allowing ourselves to feel how we feel. I think that's something very important. Letting yourself feel how you feel. It could be crying, it could be screaming, it could be being angry, it could be a lot of things, but we have to let ourselves feel how we feel. That's very important. Let yourself feel those emotions. Let yourself go through whatever it is, and let yourself just confront it. That's something from I was a child, I hid from it because I don't know how many people have been like me, based on who were your parents or the people taking care of you, your guardians, or your experiences, your culture. Some of us were raised that you don't talk about how you feel. You hide those things, or things that happen in the family. You mind your own business. You don't. tell other people your family business. And when we hide from our pain, when we hide from the trauma, when we hide from the difficulties and the challenges that we face in this life, we make more problems. And then you start taking out your pain on other things, you know. You direct your anger, you direct your frustration. Sometimes you have these anger issues why people get into wanting to put their hands on people. Mhm. I was one of those people. You do certain things because you have to release the pain that you are feeling. It's not normal for us to hide things, to not talk about things, to not um, realize that certain things are going through in our life. I want SP. How are you doing? It's so hard for us to talk about that. I used to be so embarrassed to admit that I went through some things in my life, but we all do. Everyone does. But the more that you stop listening to what other people think, the more that we stop allowing other people to control us, to control how we feel, and all of that, is the more that we can feel better, the more that we can be better, the more that we can be a better human being and not be angry and not allow our traumas to control us instead of vice versa, letting what happened to us be a fuel, be a catalyst into our elevation in our life. And I know that sometimes when we go through these traumas, why I wanted to have this conversation is because when we go through traumas, all we think about is what happened to us or what other people did or what we did. And the most important thing about this experience and why we're talking about traumas is because it's important for us to understand we're human beings. Everybody goes through this. Nobody is perfect. But when we go through things, for us to allow ourselves to have conversations, to talk about things, and to allow ourselves to move forward. Allow yourself to move forward. Allow yourself to heal. Hey, Nancy B., how are you doing? Welcome. Allow ourselves to heal, allow ourselves to confront it, allow ourselves to not run away, and allow ourselves to be accountable for what we do and to release ourselves from things that is beyond our control. I think that's something that is so important. Allow yourself to be free from something that you can't control, something that someone took advantage of you, someone traumatized you verbally, emotionally, physically, financially, spiritually. There's lots of traumatic assaults that we get as women, as men, and especially from our childhood as little girls or as little boys that we just think ignoring it all of these years, dismissing it, or thinking I'm stronger than the trauma. Ah, that didn't affect me. That didn't do anything to me. See, we lie to ourselves a lot of times, right? We do. We lie to ourselves and tell ourselves that we're okay. We lie to ourselves and tell ourselves we're not going through something, and we are. And it's okay. I want to say that to everybody. It's okay, motivators, for us to admit, I went through a lot. And it was hard. It was hurtful. It was sad. It was frightening. But now, today, as an adult, I'm not going to run from my past. I'm not going to run from my pain. I refuse to run from my trauma. I'm going to confront it. I'm going to talk about this. I'm going to talk about it. And I'm going to be better than probably your ancestors, maybe your parents, maybe aunts and uncles, maybe other people that are around you. Maybe they're not that way. But all it takes is one person to be the trendsetter, to be the change maker, to be the person that brings about healing within their family unit. It only takes one person to say, I'm not going to ignore what happened. I'm not going to lie about it. I'm not going to dismiss it. I know what I saw. I know what I felt. And we're going to come together. This is how we build stronger families. Oh, it's okay, sis. Take your time. It's all about building strong communities. It's all about supporting and loving others. One thing about this conversation, I want everybody to understand just because one person deals with something a certain way does not make it wrong. It doesn't make it weird. It means that's their experience. That's the way they're handling it, and that's the way they're coping with it. I don't like when people go through things. Thank you so much, official. Yes, you can never take away from the trauma you face as a Black woman in America, but I can do my part to emphasize. Yes, thank you so much. I appreciate your super sticker, official. It's so important for us to have conversations like this because we want to be a support. I know I want to be a support to others, and I want others to feel supported. I want other people to feel seen and heard. Maybe your whole life you've been going through things and nobody has ever seen or heard you. People have been dismissive, or people sometimes like to control you. Oh, it didn't go that way. That's not how it went. When you know how it went for you, when you know how you felt. Hi, Axina. How are you doing? Welcome. Thank you, everybody, for being here. If you could please hit the like, I'd really appreciate it because we all know how we felt, you know? We all know how we feel. And one thing about social media, okay? Social media is a monster. There's so much people who, it's unbelievable. People will come on this app and tell somebody who is not even that gender, how it feels to be that gender, how what they're going through, okay? And how it was. You've never been it's like me commenting on how it is to be a man. I can't I can't comment on that. I can't comment on what it's like to be a little boy. I can't comment what it's like to be another race. I can't comment on all of those things. All I can do is speak from my perspective, from my lens, from my experiences, and from my personal growth. And I always want this to be a space to where people can feel free to express themselves. Okay? We all have to look to ourselves for the healing. And for many years, I was looking for other people to admit. I was looking for other people to support and to do X, Y, and Z, but they didn't. They didn't know. They don't. Some people don't know how to support you. Some people don't know how to love. Some people don't know what friendship looks like. Some people don't know what communication looks like. But we have to know what it looks like for us. We have to know what's working and what's not working. And sometimes, unfortunately, we go through things in our life and we don't get the support that we need. We don't get the love. We don't get the understanding. We don't get the compassion. Actually, it goes opposite. When you open up and you say, X, Y, and Z happened to me, it's unbelievable. People will come out of the bushes telling you it didn't go that way. And that's not how it is. Like I said, it's like a man commenting on what it's like to be a woman or vice versa. Nobody can tell another what it feels like to be a different gender, to be a different race, because everybody is different. Everybody has different experiences, but it's about being respectful, being supportive, and being understanding of others. And I hope today's conversation will do that for all of us. So I'm going to start off talking a little bit about traumas. And one of my first traumatic experiences that happened to me in my life when I would say I was 6 years old. And we know back in the day, kids were seen and not heard, right? Kids were ignored. And I remember so many times being, I shouldn't say attacked, but it is what it is. Back in the day, there was a lot of physical, like, as they call discipline, but I don't call that discipline. I call that abuse. And it's so, you get that so much to where it leaves actual physical scars, but it gets to the point where as a child, I remember many days feeling like I wish I could melt into the in the wall. I wish that I could disappear. I wish so many times that I wouldn't wake up because of having to deal with the trauma of a person who has so much anger that they want to take out their anger on their children, or the siblings taking out their anger on their brothers and sisters, or when you go to school and you get the trauma of being bullied. Now, I believe that bullying never ends. It doesn't matter from you're a child until you could be 100 years old. There's always people who will bully. Bullying isn't just for children. There's pure adult bullies, and we see that on social media all the time. Yes, I'm just now realizing and accepting that people don't know how to be supportive when real people open up and speak about real trauma. Yeah. There's a lot of people, they don't know what trauma looks like because everybody's different. Maybe some people, they had a beautiful childhood. Maybe they never experienced certain things maybe that you did. But you cannot look at somebody else's life and say, "Oh no, childhood was beautiful." Maybe for them childhood wasn't beautiful. I can remember from being a child and having to grow up way faster than maybe other children had to because I had so many siblings. So I had to learn how to take care of myself. I had to learn about money management and hustling and doing certain things that maybe other kids, they didn't have to do that until they were probably 15, 16 years old. And I had to start being, I call grown, from the time I was 7, 8 years old. I had to hustle to make sure I had money from the summer. So when it was school time, I could get myself some clothes, or shoes, sneakers, certain things that I knew that my mom and my dad couldn't do. And maybe for some people, maybe people say, "Oh no, that was just teaching you responsibility." But I don't believe that a child should have to be worried about, will I be able to have clothes when school starts? Or when people talk about certain things and you don't understand it because you don't have those things in your home. I don't know how many of you have grown up in a family dynamic where communication was available. Communication didn't happen back in the day. All you got was, you got yelled at, or they only talked to you when you did something wrong. You were never supported and loved when you try your best to be a good child, when you try your best to do the right thing. No, they never looked at you and said, "I'm proud of you. You're doing a great job. I love you. I care about you." For me, I'm just speaking for myself, those things did not exist. And I had to learn that it wasn't because my parents didn't love me, they just didn't know how. Sometimes people traumatize us because they're not willing to mature, they're not willing to heal, they're not willing to allow themselves to move forward in this life, and they don't think that anything should ever change. This is the way I grew up. We don't talk about those things. We ignore it, we hide it, and then that's what they think, and it's not okay. Yes, realist, very sensitive subject, especially for Black folk. Yeah. Um, yeah, and that's why, and I'm not afraid of the uncomfortable conversations. You guys know me. I have no problem by saying that, you know, Discipline for me, discipline is conversation. Talking. Why did you do X, Y, and Z? Even saying, informing somebody. If you do X, Y, and Z, this is going to bring you physical harm. Certain conversations that probably should have been had when I was younger, I didn't have. I had to learn from the hard knock life. You know, burning yourself, getting electrocuted, you know, this is not a conversation for a person that's very easily triggered. So I want to say trigger warning, okay? Trigger warning to those who are sensitive to certain things. But I have no qualms. I have no problem with being transparent. I have no problem with saying that, you know, when I was younger, okay? When I was younger, that we used to get busted up, and afterwards, that there was going to be some scars. I had no problem with saying there was more screaming than it should have been, and that I was fearful for my life. I have no problem with saying those things because that's what it is. That's the reality. And I say that because I want others to know that just because you experience things in your youth and your childhood, it doesn't mean that now that you're an adult, now you have to scar another generation. When you have children, when you start your family, you don't just say that's what my mom did, or that's what my dad did, or that's what people in my community do, or people who look like me do, or people in my culture do. See, that's making an excuse. And I know everyone has their trauma, but I chose to rise above my trauma. I don't know how many of you uh, want to do the same. For me, I wanted better. I remember being so sad the majority of my life. I probably experienced way more sad days than any child or any adult should have to. Days you cry yourself to sleep, great days you feel lonely, days you feel like you're hated, nobody cares about you. I had way more days than I probably should have. Hi, Pinky. How are you doing? Welcome. I feel like I had way more sadness than any human being should have. And that's just in talking about lack of communication and just discipline. Just those two things, you know, not, you know, something that's very important to every single little girl and little boy in life is to be validated, for you to get affection, for someone to put their arm around you. Um, yes, I'm so glad that you're here, Pinky. I think it's so important for every child, every little girl and little boy should get someone to put their arm around them and to say, you're important, you're valid in this life. You're special, you're important, you have something to be. I believe in you. Don't ever give up. I didn't get those narratives. And I'm so happy for the people who did, the people who did get loved and hugged and kissed and told that they were loved. Man, what a blessing, what a gift that you got. But the thing about it is that in my dysfunctional upbringing, I knew that my parents loved me, but in their way. I knew, because I knew they weren't ever going to talk to me about certain things. I knew that they weren't going to show me affection and things like that. But at the same time, I knew that it wasn't right. And for me, that's a trauma. That's a trauma to know that you want something so bad. When I would see other kids with their mom or dad or uncle or whoever, and they would be, pick them up, hug them, and kiss them, tell them how I'm so proud of you. You're doing a great job. It does something to you as a person on the outside watching how a healthy family dynamic should be, but it's nothing that you can do about it. All you can do is move on. And then when you get older, you have to start to develop healthier relationships. I remember the time I was I think I was probably like 19, 20 years old, is when I really realized how messed up my upbringing was. When the more and more I started to, I would see things all along when I was younger, but actually coming to admit it, like, wow, I was like, oh, they do this together, or they go on vacation, or they talk about things and they support them, or, certain things that maybe when you look at how um a family unit should be, and then you look at yours and you be like, "Hmm, did not get that, did not receive it." But in another sense, I'm grateful for my pain. I'm grateful for my trauma, because I think that I probably would have been dismissive. I probably would not have been as compassionate and as understanding and as loving as I am right now, because I don't take love for granted. I don't take friendship for granted, and communication and support and respect, because I learned those things as an adult. I learned what is wrong. I learned what is right, and that I don't you don't have to take it. You don't have to put up with it. You don't have to take the crumbs that other people give you in your life, like what your mom, dad, uncle, whoever scarred you, whoever hurt you, whoever traumatized you, whoever made you feel this small. Now as an adult, you have to put, now this is my life. I had to learn to shift m- my focus. Instead of focusing on what happened to me, now I had to shift my focus into, what do I think about me now. Now I'm an adult. Now it's about, what do I choose to think about myself. And that's where I got into the part where I started to admit certain things that happened to me, that hurt me. And it's not just about the discipline, and it's not just about the lack of affection, but it's about other things that happen. Now, I don't know how many of you were probably yelled and screamed at and told that you are nothing, you're ugly, you're stupid, you'll never be anybody. That does something. That emotional scarring, even as an adult, sometimes I still go back to that. Even when I know that that's over, I already know I'm not a little girl, but you go back into your inner child sometimes, and you're reminded, like, dang, why they had to do me like that? Why did, why? But we have to realize sometimes that it's not about us, because they got emotionally, mentally, physically, spiritually, financially scarred, that they're a reflection of that, and they never allowed themselves to heal and to do better. Okay. And I'm grateful that when I got to be of a certain age, I got tired of being angry. I don't know how many traumatized people that I have watching now live, or watching in the replay, that at a certain period of time you get tired. Okay. You get tired of being scarred. You get tired of of taking bad behavior from other people, and then you have to make a decision that, I don't have to take it. You don't. You don't have to take it. You don't have to allow people to talk to you any type of way. You don't have to choose relationships with people who are users, takers, and manipulative. Okay. And that's another trauma in this life. Yes. Because it explains to us what love is and what love isn't. I try my best to live this way. Awesome. That's a great thought. It's so important for us to understand that what happens to us doesn't mean that's who we are. It took me a long time to process that thought and actually believe that, because when we go through things, we believe we are our circumstance. We are what has been done. We are what has how people show up for us, and that's not true. We are what we think. We are what we believe. We are what we're born to be. we are what we choose in this life. And hi Val, how are you doing? Welcome. I had to learn to choose me. I had to learn to choose healing. I had to learn to choose mental health. I had to learn to choose communication, even when it's hard, because I can say for myself and my upbringing, it wasn't natural for me to shift from being emotionally available, being a good communicator. Like the natural part when someone says something to me, I want to say, screw that. I don't want to talk anymore. I want to shut down because that's natural for me. I don't like, yeah, back up off me. Don't try to come put your hands around me. Don't. That's natural. But I have to say no. Don't do to somebody. Don't scar and hurt somebody like you were scarred and hurt. It's a mindset shift. If that makes sense to anybody. I guess sometimes if you don't go through certain things, you can't understand it. So it's something that I had to learn and to develop with inside of myself, that when I'm upset, when someone says something to me that I don't like, my first thing is for me to want to run. So, one thing that I do when someone says something to me that I may don't like, I take a break from it. I said, "Okay." I said, I hear what you're saying, but I need a little bit of time to process it. Whereas before I'd be like, "Get out of here. I don't want to hear that. I don't do that." Don't don't do that to another person. Hey, Estad, how are you doing? We have to allow other people to feel how they feel. We have to allow people to be open with us, because it's not natural to tell people how they feel or what they're going through. We bring trauma and pain and hurt on other people, and that's not right. Okay. Yeah, sugar love, you shut down too. I think that's a natural thing. That's what the majority of people do. We shut down when we're confronted with, or when someone tells you that you do X, Y, and Z, or you've hurt, or you've done something. Our immediate, no, I don't. Or you're being sensitive. You know, I was very known to do that. Oh, that's how you feel. That's your problem. No, that's not good. We have to allow people to say how they feel. And then when we realize that we're doing something that is toxic, manipulative, and hurtful to another person, then changing it, changing it. Oh, welcome back to membership, Eastad. Thank you so much. Pinky says the only thing I experienced from old school parents was not showing much affection. I learned that as well from others after growing up wasn't shown to them a lot too. Yeah, the more and more I began to realize that so many people do not get affection. I think it's crazy. So how are people supposed to be okay in today's society if they didn't experience love, communication, and affection as a child? Now, how are you supposed to be in a healthy, happy relationship and you've never been, what you call it? You've never been, I can't think of the word. You've never been exposed to that. When something is new, it's hard and it's difficult, but I try my best to push through that anyways. When I don't want to talk about things, or when it's something uncomfortable to me, I just tell them, give me a break, let me wrap my head around it, and we'll talk about this later. But don't ignore something. Do come back later, okay? And say, and tell them how you feel. Have conversations, and then find a way to experience some personal growth. Because sometimes when we get scarred and we get hurt by things and we want to shut down and run the other way, we don't want to admit the truth that we could hurt and make others sad, or we can disappoint other people or anger people. I had to learn that it wasn't just about me and what I wanted and what I was feeling. It's also about others and what they want and how they feel as well. Yes. Yeah, that's so important. So now let's get into talking about some of the examples of traumas, some of the examples, okay? And we're going to talk about them one by one. This is something that happens. This happens almost every year, probably around hurricane season. The we don't really think about the traumas of natural disasters like hurricanes, tornadoes. People lose everything in a moment, in a hurricane, in a tornado, in a disaster, in a war, something like that. I can't imagine. I've never been through um a natural disaster where have had to lose everything, but living in Florida, I have seen, like some of the effects of hurricanes. But I'm talking about people who actually lose everything. They've lost their home, they've lost their family, they've lost everything that they've known. I can't imagine the mental effects of having to go on with your life and being the person left behind. I've talked to somebody who has lost their home in a typhoon and lost a few friends. And they said they were never the same ever again. They had to move away and go live somewhere else. So that's one trauma that a lot of people experience. But I really don't hear people talking about the traumas of natural disasters, because if somebody has never been through it, I'm like, man, I can't imagine one day your whole world is different, like losing home, car, every single thing you have, like everything is wiped away along with the people that you love. I can't even, my mind can't even process that. I can't. So my thoughts are my thoughts, my prayers are open to everyone who has experienced something like that. And I know that there has been hurricanes in many countries all over the world. I know there has been natural disasters everywhere. And I know that, we're about to go in hurricane season again. So, I just hope everybody stays safe and does what they need to do and gets to safety, but it doesn't stop the people who get left behind. I always think about that. The people who get left behind after a natural disaster. I'm like, wow, get left behind. Like, what is your life now? What are you supposed to do after losing people and homes and everything? And you have absolutely nothing. How are you supposed to move on past that? We don't think about those people sometimes, but that's a major traumatic event in your life. Everything has been wiped away. So that's one example. Here's another one. Um, uh, Accidents. You know, traumatic accidents. It could be a car crash. It could be a fire. It could, something where your life was in danger. And a lot of people go through things, and life changes forever, because in a car crash people could lose limbs. um, they could People could lose lives. I know people could be on the other side of somebody who was probably drunk driving or a DUI. That's a traumatic event that can change somebody's entire life. That's why I always say, don't hold anger against somebody. You could be mad at somebody for a while, but forgive them. Because if it's somebody that you really care about, and I'm speaking that from experience for a trauma that I'm going to talk about a little bit later, but you never know if you're going to see that person later on. Don't take it for granted and say, I'll see them later, I'll forgive them later. You don't know. You don't know when you leave from your home if you're going to come home and see that person ever again. So when you have people that you love, make sure you tell them you love them. Make sure you tell them you care about them. and I'm going to talk about that a little bit later. But that's another a traumatic thing that can happen to us in life: a car crash, an accident, a fire. Even things like we don't really like to talk about, but things like bombings, um, what you call it, school violence, where they go in and you know they shoot the school up. You got what do they call active shooters, or activity. There's a lot of things that can happen that can be very traumatic, and not just because it happened directly to you, because sometimes you can be involved in a traumatic event, but nothing physical happened to you, but it's the mental, the things that you've seen. um and I knew, and I took care of somebody, working in the medical field, and she was a nurse during a war. And the things that she said she saw, she said she had nightmares about it for 20, 30 years ago, to see people missing limbs, and that you saw people that you tried your best to help them, but you couldn't help them. Mm, that's a trauma. And that's something that I honestly don't know how people get through those things, because you can't unsee certain things. I know that, 9/11 happened. I know many wars has happened. I know there's active shootings. I know there's gang activity. There's violence. There's so much things that happen that can cause trauma in this life. And that's why I said everyone has trauma. Everyone has traumas, multiple, because after you get to be a certain age, eventually so much things is going to happen to you. It's inevitable. From the time you're a child to the time wherever age, we all go through things that is hard for us to deal with. Okay. In regards to losing all possessions during due to storms, I see it as a blessing in disguise. It's all white, wiped clean. It's like a blank canvas. It's an opportunity for new beginnings. Yeah, I think that's an easy thing to say, Axina. But when somebody loses not just possession, but they've lost their homes, and but losing their relatives, loved ones, friends, everything they've known. Like, I mean, people have, like, their whole community is wiped out. Like, you go outside your house, everything is leveled, everything is gone. All the homes, people that they're all gone. It's something like out of a movie. It's I can't imagine those things. I just try to be supportive. I'm not gonna come on here and act like I know what that feels like, because I don't. But I'm just speaking, I'm just talking on it, that yeah, in regards to losing a loved one, you can't imagine how the pain that one feels. Well, I'm going to speak on that part a little bit later, but yeah, in losing people in and now we're going to talk about accidents. That's a big major one in the trauma of losing somebody from an accident. Now, sometimes accidents are on purpose, sometimes they're not. Okay. We know that sometimes it could be something like a fire, but other times it could be someone chose to take somebody's life. That's traumatic if you're on the recipient. Somebody tried to unalive you, or you saw somebody being unalived, whether it's you that it happened to, or somebody you've seen that has happened. It's still a trauma. Thank you, Estad. It never gets to be an easy thing. Now, here's one I'm going to say: trauma warning, trauma warning, trigger warning, all of those warnings in talking about this trauma. Okay. This trauma is, and I'm not going to say everybody is the same, when it comes to this, but I'm going to speak on my side. Um, Acts of violence. Do you know somebody who has been received or a recipient of violence, whether it's from your relatives or it's from your romantic partner or it's from other people that you know of, maybe on a job or something? When a violent crime has happened to you, it changes you forever. Never be the same. It gives you a kind of complex, like you're always waiting for another person to do the same thing to you. Um, whether it happened from you were a child, in a romantic relationship, with a friend, on the job, or just randomly somebody just commits an act of violence against you. Maybe you're just at the wrong place at the wrong time and something happened to you. That's a traumatic event. And I have seen that on the side of social work. And people now are triggered to want to stay home. They're afraid to leave their homes now because they feel like if it happened to me once, I just went out, I was at the store or the bank, and this happened, violent act happened to me. So they're afraid to leave their home. Now they're afraid for their life forever. Gives them anxiety. And I can't say that I know what it feels like to be in a crisis situation like that, like in a bank or when a bank is being held hostage or something like that. But I do know what it feels like for somebody to put their hands on you. And I think it's a vice versa. You get someone put their hands on you, and then you get to be just like them too, like tit for tat. I'm not justifying it. I'm not saying anything is right, but I think as humans naturally we want to protect ourselves, you know. We naturally want to protect ourselves. And I don't care who it is, whether it's a woman or it's a man, but nobody has the right to put their hands on another. I'm never going to justify it and say it's okay because I've heard all kinds of excuses because this person did this or this person, they have an anger problem or this person was in my face or this person did this. Okay. People need to learn how to control their hands, and a lot of people need to learn to control their mouth because while I don't know how to even say that, while the physical scars can heal, the effects on you mentally, emotionally will be lasting way beyond that because those physical scars can heal. But the mental scars, that's there forever. When they were telling you certain things like nobody will ever like you and you're ugly and you're stupid and you can't do anything right, those things, they stay with you. And it, not that you believe it, but it brings you down for a little while. And until somebody has actually been through something like that, you can never know how it feels. And I've heard people say stupid. One of the dumbest things that I've ever heard people say is if you wanted to get out of a DV situation, you can. Have you ever been through it? You know, it takes one to know one. People love to tell people how, oh, yeah, if you wanted to get out, you could get out. Hmm. How is that going to happen if you were locked in the home? If you were locked in a basement or you were chained up or something that's like that. How are you going to get out? It's like people sometimes don't think and they bring pain and more trauma to another person. It's so easy for us as humans to tell somebody how it is, but it's another thing to experience it. So you're never going to hear that from me. I'll never tell people, oh, you should have just gotten away or you should have did this or that because sometimes you really physically cannot. You really financially cannot because Hi, the Haven. How are you doing? Sometimes, because we go through so many things in our life, sometimes you're beaten down literally, you're beaten down physically, you're beaten down emotionally. You have your self esteem is like this, and you don't have support because they've done such a good job in isolating you from other people that you have nobody to lean on and to support. So, if we can't be supportive and encouraging of others, don't say anything. Don't say anything to judge another person. Other people need support and love, kindness, and consideration. You know, thank you so much, The Haven. Everybody needs support. And if we cannot be a supportive elevation to another person, then just don't say anything. Just keep your mouth closed if you cannot be supportive and encouraging of another person, you know. And yeah, that's what I'm going to say on that. So to anybody, I always say this on every live, on every channel that I have. If you don't feel safe at home, whether it's your parents, siblings, grandparents, romantic partner, whoever, even on the job, even where you live, whatever. If you do not feel safe in your current situation, please reach out to a hotline. Remain anonymous. Get support so that you can get the strength, the support, and the encouragement to get out. This is a judgment free zone. I want everybody to feel safe and comfortable, and know that if you need some mental support, you can always reach out to my email. I'm always going to advocate and support, especially DV. I'm always going to support um, abuse of any form, because it's not right and nobody deserves that. Okay. So, another one that I want to talk about is a trauma that a lot of people don't like to talk about, and that's being homeless. And in today's society, with how money is and how everything has gotten so expensive, it's not like that's something that's so far reached. That's a big trauma in this life, for you to be indoors one day and the next thing you're outdoors. Maybe you would be fortunate enough if you had a car that you could live in your car, even though that's not fortunate either, because you don't have a place to go and close the door like in a home with a shower and all of those things. But that's a traumatic thing. It's a traumatic event. It's a traumatic life for so many people. And I've heard people who are absolutely ridiculous when it comes to homelessness. People make fun of a person who's on the street. Like, I'm not saying some people do make a choice to be homeless, but not everybody does. Some people, all it took was a divorce, losing a job, a mental impact, losing a person that they loved in death, not having the support financially, maybe from another person, and there you go, they're outside. Or maybe going through a medical issue, and it breaks my heart in a million pieces. I For me, it does not matter if a person has a mental. I hate, that's one of the things. I mean, it breaks my heart in a million pieces. I cannot stand to see people outside. I can't stand to see people homeless, that they don't have a place to lay their head down, a place to shower, a place that they can make themselves some food. I hate that. So my heart goes out to those who have been traumatized and have been through that situation. There's no judgments here, you know. I hope that your life gets better. I really do. I hope your situation changes. I hope that you can find employment. I hope that, whatever mentally that has hurt you to make you feel that you can't cope and you gave up. I hope that you can get some support so that you can push through that. Okay. Eastside says, I see a few people here in Jersey living in their car and having a gym membership um, to shower. Hmm, I can't imagine that, you know, being honest. I don't know what that's like, but this is a supportive, this is a supportive channel. You know, we're here to support one another and encourage one another. Um, So I hope it gets better to anybody who has ever been through that or anybody who's currently going through that. You know, most people aren't going to talk about it, especially on social media, because people will clown you and make fun of you. Oh, and you should have done that and you should have done this. Like people are going to pay your bills or give you anything. People aren't going to support you and help you. It's easy for us as a human being. If you're not going in somebody else's situation, if you have not walked in their shoes, you don't know what it's like. That's why I'm always going to be supportive of people who are homeless. Sometimes by choice, sometimes not by choice. But could you be kind, and not judgmental? Yeah, me either, reals. I can't stand ignorant folks either. Realist says, I have a cousin who lost both his parents and it hit him so hard he just gave up and is now living downtown on a beach. Oh, wow. See, you never know, and we look at people sometimes and think everything is okay. I saw a documentary a few years ago about there's people and they have these very exclusive corporate jobs. They wear a business suit, women and men, and after work they go right under the bridge and that's where they sleep. And then in the morning they wake up and get ready and put on their suit, but they can't afford the cost of living or whatever. They just went through a bad situation. The rent went up and they didn't have the money or whatever the situation was, but there they are. They're outdoors. It's crazy to me how people can be employed but outdoors. And it's an easy thing to do. A breakup, losing everything, losing all your money, being sick, and you were sick for such a long time, not working, can't keep up with the bills, get evicted, and there you go. You're outside. Oh, it's a tough one. That's a very tough one. So, the homeless. Here's another traumatic event that a lot of people go through, and they really don't want to talk about it. And that's those who have been incarcerated. Hi, Boss Life Online. How are you doing? Welcome. The incarcerated. That's a very traumatic thing. I don't know how many of you know someone, or maybe it has been you, um, but that's a traumatic thing to become incarcerated, whether it's going to jail or whether it's going to prison. And you know me, there's no judgments here. I'm not here to make fun of people or to talk about them. Sometimes we choose, make the wrong choice, um, have the wrong people around us. Sometimes you get into situations, get some vices. Sometimes you make a bad choice, you know, drinking and driving, DUI, partake with some drug activity. There you go. And now you're incarcerated. And that's a trauma because the things that people see and the things that happen to people while being incarcerated. I've heard horror stories. I mean, horror stories of what happens in jails. They're not being air conditioning and heat. The food is just disgusting. They're being spoiled food. Um, the physical. and the sexual abuse that happens in the jails, the violence that happens to them is so much traumas happen behind bars. So that's a whole thing that could be a whole discussion in itself. The the trauma of being incarcerated. I honestly can't imagine that, but to anybody, every single trauma that I have been talking about from the beginning, if you fit into any of those categories, I'm not here to judge anybody. I'm not here to talk about it, but I'm also not here to dismiss it. You know how you feel. You know what you've went through, or you know what your friend or your family or whoever went through. The most important thing about having this conversation about traumas is, can we open up our hearts and our minds to other people instead of looking at other people, wagging our finger, tell they shouldn't have done this and they shouldn't have done that. If we can't support another person, if we cannot display kindness, if we cannot be understanding and compassionate to another person, shut your mouth. Don't say nothing. When a person is going through already too much, they don't need your judgments. They don't need your anger, your saltiness, your assumptions. If we can't give another person kindness and love, don't say nothing. You don't know what it's like. You don't know what that person has been through. We don't know. We don't know what somebody else is going through. We don't know what somebody else is dealing with. We don't know. Okay. So I want to say that. Another traumatic thing that can happen is when we have maybe ourselves or a friend, a family member, somebody that you know has mental illness. That's a trauma. And it's a trauma for people's entire life. Um, Having a friend, a family member, or a loved one that has mental illness. And, I've talked about this many times that there's so much people who have mental illness that has been undiagnosed. They never want to admit that they need help because, number one, they don't want to admit it. Number two, they're not willing to take medication. And number three, um, they think that they're okay. They think this is just the way that I am, and that's not good enough. And I've seen that so much, especially in low income communities, in urban communities, where it's a lot of people who have mental illness and it's not diagnosed. They've not been medicated. And another thing is that what I've seen is because of the mental illness, because of the mental illness, another trauma happens because they have mental illness. They become incarcerated because they don't have certain things, because they don't live anywhere, so they commit thefts and crimes and do all type of shady things. When if they had got some support, if they had a place to live, if they were taking medication, maybe they would be better. But I'm not talking about the ones that don't want help, but I'm talking about the ones that actually need help, and they just maybe don't have the support. Maybe they're embarrassed to even say they need that help, but we can be traumatized for other people who have mental illness within our families, within our communities, within the workplace. Because I will tell you that I have had people that I have worked with, and I know 100% that they have some mental illness that has been undiagnosed, but you can't do anything about people. I've had management, I've had other coworkers, and they definitely have something wrong with them, but they've never got the help that they need, and they need help desperately. So while they may be traumatized because whatever issue, we get traumatized from other people because of what they do to us. So that's another thing as well. So let's go to talking about three types of trauma. Okay. Hey, Raymond, how are you doing? Welcome. Thank you so much for being here. Happy Saturday. This is another traumas. Okay. We're going to talk about three types of traumas. So, one type of trauma is acute trauma. So, that's like a single incident, like something happens to you that's traumatic and it's something that happens one time. That's an acute trauma. Then there's chronic trauma where it's repeated, prolonged, physical, child abuse, sexual abuse. Yeah, it's those things. So chronic is something, a lot of traumatic things that happen to you, all different levels, but it's something that has happens repeatedly or over a long period of time. So those are some of the hardest things to get over. Okay. Enjoy your time there, Raymond. That's one of the things that we have to understand, that whether something happens to us in our life that's traumatic and it happens to you one time, or it's something that happens to you chronically, repeatedly over many years, we need to do something about it. And here's another one that I really never thought about, but it's called a complex trauma, which is something new to me. I learned something in my research. Do you know about complex traumas? It's exposure to multiple and very traumatic events. So, complex. So something that maybe they go through something that other people may never ever have to experience. Something very dark happened to them, something very explosive, very hurtful, very painful. That is not something that they can just get over very easily, at whereas maybe something that was acute, something that happened one incident in their life, maybe they can very easily get over that hump, get over that difficulty. But whereas a person who has been through complex traumas, um, just can't without some help. So we're going to talk about that in a little bit, the type of help that you can get from traumas. But remember, there's acute trauma, the single incident, the chronic, which is repeated, and complex, which is something very dark, very tragic, um, and it's a very traumatic event. So sometimes it's a combination of the chronic and the complex at the same time. So everybody's different. Okay, you got to know what are some of the traumas that people do experience. So now let's talk about some of the symptoms of traumas. Right? What are some of the symptoms? And of course, there's going to be way more than what I have on my list. Hey, Heather, how are you doing? Welcome. Appreciate you being here. Happy Saturday. What are some of the symptoms of trauma? What are the symptoms that people feel when they get traumatized? Okay. Intense fear, you know, very fearful, you know, like I said, when people go through certain traumas, then they shut themselves in. They become very anxious. They isolate themselves from other people. That could be an adverse reaction to the trauma. That their fear is so high and so intense that they just shut down and they just isolate and stay by themselves. That's one symptom of trauma. Another one is that people feel powerless, um, especially if you were overtaken, um, taken advantage of, disrespected, brought about physical, emotional, sexual, financial traumas. Yeah, you feel powerless because there's nothing that you could have done about it, especially if you were young or you were vulnerable. And there you go. You're traumatized. Okay. And another symptom of trauma is helpless. You feel helpless. You feel like it's beyond your control. Like you feel like your hands are tied. it's like watching something happen, and you just stand there and watch because you can do nothing about it. You can't help that person, you can't help the situation. So that's another symptom of a trauma. And another one is shame. When people go through things, they feel shame either because of what they've done, of what has been done to them, what people will say, how people will view them. It's all of those things. So, yeah, it's all of that. Heather says loneliness, untrusting, fight or flight or freeze. Mm, really, really good thoughts, Heather. And I know for myself, going through a few traumas is for me was like ignoring it, like not lying about it, but not wanting to admit it. You know, because of the shame, because of what other people will say, because of other people's judgments, we will hold that inside. Oh no, that didn't happen to me. Like you'll flat out lie about it when you know that it happened to you because you don't want to admit it to yourself. See, it's because you don't want to accept it. That happens so much times with people, especially people who experience DV situations, have been essayed, and have been I can't think of the word, but have been a victim of sex crimes. They will lie and say, "Oh no, that didn't happen to me," because that pain is too much for them to face, for them to admit, because then they would have to say that a crime was committed against them, and they don't want to admit that because of the shame and the embarrassment and how they were powerless. And even sometimes when it comes to traumas, people blame themselves. I don't know how many of you have done it, but I know I have blamed myself for certain traumas that has happened to me in my life. And it's nothing that you can do about it. You didn't do nothing. You did absolutely nothing. But that's what it was. So don't blame yourself for what other people do. That's something that I want to come out of this marathon and this conversation, especially if it's something that was beyond our control, is something that we didn't want to happen, and but it happened to us. Someone took advantage of you, someone disrespected you, someone overpowered you, um, lied to you, whatever it is, traumatized you in some way. So don't feel that you're less than. Don't feel that, oh, it's my fault. That's what a lot of people did. I did that for many years. Some of the things that happened to me, some of the traumas that I experienced, I blamed myself and said, what did I do to be able to have this happen to me? You'll blame yourself. Why did this happen to me? But don't blame yourself for what somebody else did. I know it's a natural thing, it's a human thing. It's what the majority of people will do. They will blame themselves, but don't blame yourself for what somebody else did that was immature, low vibrational, demented, evil, wicked, all of those things. Don't blame yourself for it. I want to say that to every single one of you. If someone took advantage of you or you saw certain things, don't blame yourself because of what you saw, because of what somebody did to you. It's not our fault. Okay. If a person is weak minded, a person is wicked, it's their fault. So we have to learn to give people back what they've done. you know don't blame yourself for what happened to you. A lot of times it's not our fault. A person is just demented or evil or controlling and jealous, and that's their fault. But it's important for us to not run and hide from what happened to us, for us to have these conversations and to talk about it, and for us to do so in a manner to where it's safe. This is a safe space to talk about it. You know, X, Y, and Z happened to me. And you do have to be careful where you open up and talk about things and where you share things, because especially on the internet there's these people who come out of nowhere. They've never been through anything like you have been through, but then they have everything to say. They have every judgment. They have every whatever. Oh yeah, I know how that is. They've never experienced it. They've never gone through it. They've never been through it. But you just have to ignore those people, okay? Now we're going to talk about some of the treatment for traumas. This part is very important in talking about traumas, okay? And of course, there's many other things that will help in talking about treatment for traumas. To each his or her own. Do what works for you. That's what I want to say. And what I want to say is that ignoring it, silence is not the answer. It's time for us to confront the trauma, okay? To deal with it, have conversations, and get the help that we desperately need, instead of being angry, instead of complaining, instead of taking it out on other people, instead of passing judgments. Let's gain the knowledge and the experience, and actually learn how things actually are, instead of thinking that we know, because we don't always know. Okay, let's get into some of these treatments. Here's one: psychotherapy, which I really don't know anything about psychotherapy, but I've just heard about it. But if you go through something very traumatic, especially something like the complex traumas where you went through some very like wicked and evil things, something major and dark, you may need to go through some psychotherapy and speak with a psychiatrist about certain things. I think that's something important. I'm not here to judge anybody. I'm not here to tell people what works, but all I'm doing is giving the knowledge. And my hope is to empower you for you to make the best decision for yourself. Another one that I know for myself, what worked for me was definitely therapy. A treatment for my trauma definitely shifted and changed my life was getting therapy. And I don't mean just going to any therapist. To get treatment for your trauma, you have to find a therapist that is right for you. For me, I had to make sure I had a therapist that wasn't like, I don't know, not like timid, or, I could easily sway, or somebody that, that they will call my bluff, like, oh yeah, who do you think you're fooling? So make sure you find somebody that is in line with your personality, and that will be supportive. So sometimes you got to go through a few therapists, but find somebody that will give you the assistance and the help that you need. And let me say this: in many communities, not just in low income, but in different cultures, there's this, oh, like, the way people will look at you and the way people will judge you. Oh, you're going to therapy? Oh, you're nuts. It doesn't mean you're nuts. You're not crazy. You're not strange. You're not weird. Sometimes people within our families, people within our communities, they say things like, "Oh, that's weird," or "You're strange, you're crazy," because you're not because we become enlightened and know that I'm not going to be miserable. I'm not going to be angry my whole life. I'm going to allow myself to move forward from this pain. I'm going to allow myself to move past this trauma. And I'm going to have conversations. I'm going to talk about what was it that I did, and what was it that they did, and what could I have done better if there was something. And if not, not blaming myself, and going about learning and healing and growing and learning the coping tools for myself, that was monumental in my healing process and my personal growth, because it wasn't until I went through therapy that I learned this. When I went through therapy, I learned that it was okay to be angry. It was okay to want to scream. It was okay that I was sad. It was okay that I was angry, because that's a part of the process. There's certain things that should never happen to us, and certain things that people should never do to us, but it does. And when it does, it's okay to reach out and get support and get the right tools in order for us to go through our life. Because I will tell you something, I we can think that we're doing so good in this life. We can think that we're coping and we're fooling everybody, but guess what? You can fool everybody, but you're not fooling yourself. you, you could you could have all of these, oh yeah, I'm doing good, I'm doing fine, I'm doing perfect, but people don't see behind the scenes, crying yourself to sleep, you having your anger issues, you having other vices, maybe you started to drink or developing bad habits and behaviors, all because you're covering up your traumas from whatever happened to you. So I'm just giving a little bit of enlightenment and empowerment to say that to everybody. You know, when things happen to us, we don't have to be like, oh, I'm so strong. And I don't know how many people have been like me. I grew up in that. You don't talk about what happened in your family. You don't talk about what happened to you. Oh, silence is the answer. Don't tell your business. That's a family secret, or don't tell anybody. Nobody needs to know that. So you hold these things inside of you, and that's not good. Sometimes I believe, it's not, this is not medical advice, but it's my personal thought. I believe sometimes that's why a lot of people, they develop a lot of illnesses and diseases, because they're holding in all of these painful things inside of their head, and they get sick. They get sick because they're hiding, they're not dealing with it, and they're not coping with their life well. They're sad, they're crying all the time, they're angry, they're dismissive. And for me, you could stay stuck at the age of whatever happened to you. So if something happened to you when you were, for example, like myself, something happened to me when I was 7. Mentally, there's some things that I still have to remind myself to move past, because my inner child was hurt at the age of 7 years old. So, in getting therapy, I know for myself was very helpful in me not staying as a little girl, but allowing myself to say, confront your little girl and tell and I got to tell my little girl to have a seat. I got to tell myself that it's okay, that we're not 7 years old anymore. And nobody is going to hurt me like that again, because I know how to make better choices. I know how to talk through things. I know how to speak up for myself. I know how to set boundaries. But I didn't learn those things until I had the tools when I went through therapy. When I went through therapy, I learned that it was okay to say no. It was okay to not show up for everyone, that it was okay for me to turn off my phone. It was okay for me to go out and enjoy my life. It was okay for me to not have to tell everybody my business, that I could walk in silence, that I could use my talents and my gifts that was given to me, even if your relatives and your friends or other people didn't like it. We have to live our life. And sometimes, because of traumatic people, dark people, and toxic people, we will stop living our life. We will stay in a dark space like it's okay, because we want to be supportive of other people. We want to pretend like you know, like we love them so much. when love is not controlling. Love is going to be supportive and encouraging. Love is going to tell you to go after your dreams. And sometimes the people that we love, they don't love us, we love them. And I had to learn that throughout my healing process, going through therapy, that sometimes the people that we love so much, they don't love us. They want to control us. They want to use us. They want to manipulate us. And that's a trauma in itself that we have to cut off and say, that's not healthy. That's not good for me. That's not good for my mental health. That's not good for my physical health. That's not good for my financial, my spiritual health. Because if we always think that we have to do things in order to gain people's love, that's not healthy love. That's not good for us. Hold on a second, guys. We have to want better and we have to do better. And until we do something about that, until we do something about our past, until we confront it, until we look at the little girl or the little boy inside of us, we're always going to be angry. We're always going to feel ashamed. We're always going to be controlled. It will always have power over us. And I had to learn that I'm stronger than my pain. I'm stronger than my past. I'm not alone. I have people who have been through what I have been through. I have I have therapists, I have coaches, I have mentors, I have friends, I have people who believe in me. But I had to learn to back away from the users and the takers and the manipulators and the controllers and be in my own zone. And I had to learn about what I wanted and what I needed instead of always doing what other people want and need. That's a trauma in itself. People pleasing. It really is. Um, it took me a really long time for me to walk away and step away from people who are only there because they want to use me, because they want to control me. And if I don't do what they say or do what they like, now they hate me. Now they're going to be mean to me. Now they'll be dismissive of me. Now they'll want to embarrass me. And that's not love. Love doesn't hurt. Love is supportive and understanding. Love is not control and power over you. And I learned that in my healing process. um, for most traumatic events, therapy and godly counseling is necessary. I think everybody needs what works for them. Everybody is different, but I know for myself, mine was a mix of therapy, spiritual support, um, uh, what is it called? Group therapy. Oh, yeah, because I stopped on after I talked about therapy. So let me talk about some other things that will help with trauma, and that's exercise, talking about it, group therapy, a support group, or being around people who will encourage and support us to be better. That's important. Getting out. Sometimes for some people, they have to release that negative energy by exercising, whether it's walking, running, tennis, a sport, but some exercise in releasing that pain. I know when my anger comes stirs up inside of me for something that I went through that was traumatic. The only thing that helps me at that time is running. I have to run, and it does something to me and helps me. Okay. So another treatment for trauma is relaxation. Now, I know a lot of times when we are feeling a certain way, how could relaxation help us? Relaxation helps so much because when we hyper fixate, when we focus on what we have been going through or what other people have done to us, what we definitely need to do is to allow ourselves to say, it's okay. It's okay for me to focus some time on me and not feel guilty about it. I know for me, for myself, I felt really guilty about taking some time out for me, whether it's for my self care, whether even if it's getting some sleep, sleeping in, taking a nap, turning off my phone. Sometimes because we have enabled people in our lives, we've had toxic relationships. We've had toxic relationships with people, and we've allowed people to do things. We've enabled them in a bad way. We've let them do certain things and we haven't called it out. We haven't set the boundaries. We haven't said, no, I don't like that. I don't like when you treat me that way. You know, you trigger yourself. So one thing that I had to learn in my treatment for trauma is saying that it's okay for me to have my time. It's okay for me to go to my therapist. It's okay for me to go and get my exercise. It's okay for me to spend time with friends. It's okay for me to go to my group therapy. It's okay for me to do something where I dress up and I take care of myself so that when I look good, I feel good. It's important for us to do things and take care of ourselves so that we can be okay, whatever that means for you. Every single person is different. Um, Not everybody is like me. For me, my relaxation, I love to go get a pedicure. That relaxes me in a way like nothing else. Sometimes it's getting a massage. Sometimes it's going for my job. Sometimes it's meeting up with friends, getting a good meal. But whatever it is, and this is another thing that I found online, some important things for treatment for trauma is meditation, just sitting time, just thinking, giving yourself the time that it's okay. I can meditate on what I'm going through. Because a lot of times when we have all of these things in our head, we just need some time by ourselves to think about what we have been through, you know, you know, we should call it separating it, putting it in little different categories, giving yourself that time to meditate on what you have been through and to not ignore it. How you feel matters. What you're going through matters. And if you've been through some traumatic events, it's okay to say, I need a break from X, Y, and Z. I need some time for by myself so that I can check in on myself and ask myself, am I okay? And if I'm not, why not? Another important thing for treatment for trauma is breathing. Sometimes just taking a deep breath because we're so busy being adults, taking care of our families, working, doing this, doing that, that we don't even give ourselves the time to take a deep breath, do some relaxing, take some deep breaths, okay? It's really important. And it will stop us from doing something crazy sometimes. A deep breath, deep breathing techniques. Breathe in from your nose and out through your mouth, okay? Some music. We all know music is a healing for our soul. And depending on what kind of music that you like, put on your favorite type of music and relax. For me, I like to listen to some smooth jazz. Sometimes it could be country music, sometimes it could be R&B, sometimes it's funk, sometimes it's soul, and yes, even sometimes for me it's rock music. But it's whatever I need at that moment in order to relax me. So listen to some music and close your eyes, tap your feet, put your feet up, but do something to de stress yourself. For other people, it's gardening, okay? And for others, it's doing some of the things that you enjoy, your favorite hobby, but you got to do something in order for you to not keep that inside. You have to have an outlet to get free, an outlet to be free, okay? Um, yes, I talked about support groups and all of those things. So that is all for those. Now let's get into talking about some some traumas that um, we really don't want to talk about. For a lot of people, the problem with trauma is admitting. You know, for many years, I wanted so badly to ignore it, and I did, but we don't do it successfully. We'll ignore the problem, we'll ignore the issue, we'll ignore what happened to us or what happened around us, whether it was a disaster, whether it was a physical. And I want to get into talking about some financial traumas because I didn't discuss that yet. For a lot of people, going through financial traumas is a really big deal. A lot of people, it was a traumatic thing. A lot of people lost homes back in 2009 or during recent years because they couldn't afford the cost of mortgage and property taxes and insurance and so much other things. People lost their jobs, um, so that was a thing. So not being able to have money, that's a trauma for a lot of people. Sometimes not being able to make enough income in order to take care of your family, in order to have food to eat, have insurance and things that just about every human being, it's necessary for you to have. It's traumatic when you can't take care of yourself. It's traumatic. So it's even more traumatic when you have money and it is lost in some way, lost through the stock market, it's lost through a business deal, it's lost from a family member that you trusted and they took advantage of you, they lied to you, and the money is gone. Another thing is trusting somebody in a romantic relationship and you trusted them with certain things and either they gambled the money away, um, they stole the money, or you trusted them to build certain things for your future together, and it just it wasn't that way. They just were there to use you and take advantage of you. So when we go through traumatic things financially, it's hard. It's hard when we have people that we trusted them um, to be who they said they are. When somebody lies to you, when someone just doesn't do what they're supposed to do financially, it hurts. And it hurts even more when it's somebody that we love. Of course, people that you didn't really know, like a business deal or something. Yeah, well, that hurts. But it hurts when it's somebody that you really trusted, when it's a romantic relationship, when it's your spouse, when it's your significant other, when it's your siblings or relatives, somebody you trusted and you gave them money and you don't get it back. They lost it. And it's very irritating when you gave somebody money and then you don't get it back. And then they want to like ignore. You're talking to them about when am I going to get it back? And they want to have an attitude. And you're like, I can't believe this. Because you did everything to help them and to support them in order for them to get through whatever situation that they're going through. You're trying to support them through it. And then they don't want to pay you back. They don't want to give you back. Or they lied, they did something. And that's a trauma when you trusted somebody with money and They were not a person who was trustworthy. Unfortunately, sometimes we don't always make the best decisions when it comes to money. We feel like with our relatives or your spouse or significant other, we feel like we can trust them. And then when you find out you really could never trust them. We find out who people really are at the end of the day. Um, and it's very hurtful. It's very painful. It's very sad, but don't let what other people do stop you from starting again. Sometimes, because of what another person does, you can lose everything. You could lose your home, you could lose your job, you could lose your respect in the community. It can do a lot of things to you. But, dust yourself off and then get up and try again. Sometimes starting all over again is really hard. I shouldn't say sometimes, all the time. Starting over again is hard. Starting again with your life, having a new life, and probably starting again with making your savings develop all over again. But don't stop being yourself. Yes, for you is praise and worship. Oh, awesome. Whatever it takes for us. Do those things. Don't stop yourself from your healing. And I know that we can get angry. I can say for me, I got angry for a long time for some people, a few persons that I trusted, and they broke my heart in a million pieces. Right now, I want to talk about the trauma of breakups. You know, whether it's a breakup of a friendship, it's a breakup romantically, it's a breakup of a job, but breakups in general, they are traumatic. They are very hurtful because you trusted a person and they broke your trust. They did something that you didn't like. And it's hard to move past that because sometimes you're not the one that you didn't do anything. Sometimes we did do things. But the most important thing is for us to pick up the pieces of our heart and to allow yourself the opportunity to move on, to learn the lesson and to grow from it. Grow from it, learn, heal, and start all over again. But don't sit and complain about what other people did. It's important when we talk about healing from romantic pain when somebody hurt us. And I know a lot of people say, "Oh, I'll never get into another relationship ever again," right? We hear that all the time because somebody hurt us so bad because of some of the things that people do to us. But also, we have to change our behaviors towards it. When we talk about people traumatize us, we also have to admit, what did we do? What did we allow? Didn't we choose that person? Didn't we allow them to disrespect us? And sometimes we don't want to admit that we saw red flags in a person. I know now that I've matured and healed and grown from certain relationships. I know I can admit I saw red flags and I ignored it. And it's not always the easiest, but it's very important to admit that to yourself. I wasn't mature enough. I wasn't humble enough. And I didn't want to listen to other people because sometimes your friends, your relatives, other people will tell you, watch this and watch that about a person. I see this and I see this on another person, but we don't want to admit that. We don't want them to be right. We're so caught up in our feelings and our emotions that we deny everything. We dismiss everything that other people tell us. But it is what it is. And when it happens, give yourself that time to be angry, to scream, to cry. but don't stay there, motivators. Don't stay there. Don't stay in that pain. And while it's hard when someone breaks trust and hurts us, we have to move on with our life. I want to say that to anybody who's watching right now or in the replay. Don't let, if a person hurt you and broke your heart, don't say for once and for all time, because I've been hurt, I'll never open my heart again. Yeah, we say that sometimes because we're upset, we're angry at what a person did and said. But eventually we have to stand up again, look at ourselves in the mirror and say, it's time for me to get out there. Don't shut your heart out from love. Now that you've grown, now that you've learned certain things, try dust yourself off, try again. you know Now this time you're going to learn. You've learned things, you're stronger, you're empowered, you know your worth, you know about love, you know about respect, you know about boundaries. So, not saying that you'll never be hurt again, but now when you're empowered, you know certain red flags and you know what to not ignore, you know not what to dismiss. So, I hope that that helps somebody. Um, I don't want anybody to ever stop themselves and cut themselves off from ever loving again because someone did X, Y, and Z to you. You know, when the right person comes around, give them a chance. Of course, after, you know, doing your research, spending time together, paying attention to how you feel, really opening your eyes to how they treat other people, and not rushing the process, not being in a rush to move in together, or to rush to marriage, or to rush to what other people said. And don't let other people tell you about, oh, you're too old, or you're too young, or because this happened. We're not a stamped. You're scarred once and for all time because of your past or your decision or what another person did. Allow yourself to be free and open again for love. I feel like that's a very important message to say to, all of you. Don't close off your heart from love. Allow yourself to be open once again. I know it's not easy. I know that. Um, I know it's not easy to be open to love, but try. Hold on one second, guys. Okay. Open up your heart to love. Open up your heart to change. And I will say that sometimes we put, like, all these things, that we have this list that they have to have this, they have to have this, they have to have this. You could be shutting yourself off from a loving relationship, from friendships, all because of what a person did, but you didn't allow yourself to forgive the past and also to forgive yourself. Um, One thing that I want to talk about right now is healing from, the traumas that we give ourselves because of, past situations, because of certain people in our life, because we're unhealed. Maybe you're immature, um, or whatever the case may be. One of the most important relationships that we have to heal is a relationship that we have with ourselves. There's no relationship that is more important than the relationship that you have with yourself. If you don't learn who you are, what you want, what you're here to do, the role that you play in other people's life, and allow yourself to walk in your talents and your gifts and to work on the quality of it, that's something that I had to learn. And I learned that from my pain. I learned that from people who hurt me and disappointed me. I had to learn to believe in myself. I had to learn about confidence. I had to learn to support myself. I had to learn to be my own cheerleader. And who knew from trauma can come healing? And from healing can come you finding your gift in this life, you finding out your reason and your purpose. And I think that's one of the most beautiful things that that has ever happened to me in this life. From my pain and from my trauma, I found me. And that warms that warms my heart from the inside. From our trauma, we can find out love for ourselves. Have you found love for yourself through your trauma? While I don't condone uh, things that people do and say, and the people that hurt us, but sometimes when things happen to us because of that, we learn to grow, we learn to be our best. Oh, I see Boss Life Online is here in the background. Let's welcome her to the conversation. Oh, I see Boss Life Online is here in the background. Let's welcome her to the conversation. I think you probably do. You have me open on another app, Geo?
Yeah, I'm gonna close it out.
Okay. So everybody, this is Boss Life Online. Um, I'm gonna let her tell about her channel, and then we're gonna let her discuss what she wants to talk about. So this is Boss Life Online. Introduce yourself, Gio.
Hey everybody, I'm Gio. I am Boss Life Online. That is one of my YouTube channels. On that channel, I show you how to become an affiliate marketer like myself, and you can work online uh, part time or full time. I do it full time. Also, on the channel, I have Boss Up Motivation to help you keep, your motivation in place because affiliate marketing sometimes is just not an easy thing. But it pays if you are persistent and consistent. Okay, it's just money, like they say online. You can make this much money, child. It do not fall out the trees, and it definitely is not falling out the sky. Okay, you really have to work at it. So that is what Boss Life Online is all about. It's just telling you the real truth about what's going on online and helping you learn how to make money online.
Oh, awesome, awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. So, um, Gio, when I asked you to come on and to talk about this, everyone has their trauma. I wanted you to share like some of the things that helps you when we talk about traumas. What are some of the things that you feel has helped you when it comes to trauma?
Well, first off, I have to tell you what the trauma was,
Okay.
in order to make it make sense to people. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? So my trauma, two traumas in one day,
Mhm.
was my mother dying and my father leaving. So that's grief and abandonment.
Mhm.
Now, most people might not think that that is a trauma, but it is. Okay? Because grief can follow you for the rest of your life if you do not do what you're supposed to do to learn how to live with it. If you do not cry, if you do not acknowledge it, if you just put it to the side and say, I'm going to go on, it's too much pain, I don't want to deal with it. That is trauma and it's going to follow you. It followed me, baby. Okay, no matter what I did, how I tried to ease the pain or whatever, that sucker would come and wait for me to think I'm okay, and here it comes. And then I would find myself just crying just out of nowhere. It was
Mhm.
horrible. And I'm like, oh my God, what is this? So I went on and on and on. Now, the abandonment part is when my mom did die. My father left and went to California. It was 8 kids. It was
Mm.
8 of where was we gonna go? I was
What
seven.
are you gonna do?
Yeah, that's trauma, and I go back to that part. That's why sometimes I don't like to go back there or think about that because it still do hurt, but not as much as it did before because I have worked on myself. But we was looking at each other like, well, what are we gonna do? How we gonna get to school? How we go? I mean,
Yeah, how are you gonna live?
yeah. Well, it was just so we were very 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 lucky, and I just thank God for my mom's prayers, the minister, even that old crazy daddy of mine prayers, that we rolled on because people stepped up. My aunt Hattie, she raised us until she couldn't do it anymore, and then my first cousin Shirley, took us in. Okay,
Wow.
so but it was still like, what the
Mhm.
is going on here?
Because I think they every child never thinks that their parents won't ever be around.
Right. And when something like that happens, and one died, the other leave, or both died, it is a huge trauma. And and a lot of people say, well, that's just grief, but it's a trauma too because
Mm.
it stays with you until you work it out, until you do
Yes.
so. It affects every part of your life. Say, like abandonment. We were abandoned by our father. Okay, so
Mhm.
I had no idea that because I experienced that and the trauma of that I was set myself up in situations to be abandoned. Then
Wow.
I had that same feeling, that same, like I'm lost. Why people do this? Why people walk away from me? Well, your daddy walked away from you. Your mama
Mm.
left. That's still abandonment. You see, you got to
Mhm.
deal with these things. And I kept picking people in relationships that was walking away from me instead of walking toward me.
Yeah.
That's abandonment. I set
Mm.
myself up for it, but I had no idea I was doing it. I was in that trauma and I didn't know how to get out. On top of that, I was grieving my mother and did not want to because that was too painful. So you got two
Yeah.
traumas going on in your life.
At the same time.
Yeah, I'm surprised that I did not lose it all the way. I'm surprised that my family, because we not my whole family went through this. My sisters and brothers.
Yeah.
We made it. I just think it was by the grace of God we made it. Okay, but
Mhm.
how did I get better? I broke. I mean, completely. After having so many relationships, didn't work. I like this person and we get along, then all of a sudden they walking away. You
Mm.
understand what I'm saying? Do you know how crushing that is? It feels like your daddy is walking away. Okay,
All over again.
all over again. Okay, and I remember, and make just a long story short about that, and the death of my mom and the grieving. I was at work. I had went out partying hard, baby. I was having myself
Mm.
at 5 or 6 drinks, had on mini skirt and boots. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
And back in the day, child, I used to wear that long weave. You know what I'm saying? Out there just having myself a complete
Had
ball
a time.
because that was one of the ways that I silenced all of that.
That was your coping mechanism.
Right. Going out having a good time and not having to have to think about that or anything like that. So the next day, and I did not miss work for nothing, baby, because I like money too much. Okay,
Mhm.
and I like to have money. Not that I would use money to hurt anybody or blah blah blah, like some people we
Mhm.
know that's up in jail today. Uh,
Mhm.
you know, but I like money because it gave me a sense of security,
Mhm.
and then I had a child doing all of that crazy stuff. And I must say that having that baby at that time did help save my life too. Because then
Can you explain a little bit why having a child saved your life?
because I had someone who actually loved me and was not going to walk away.
Mm.
I
Did
didn't.
but
I
did you know that at the time that your
no
daughter was saving your life?
no I didn't know that until I went to therapy, and
Mm.
my therapist kept drilling deep down, and I came up with that. That is why, But it was just this sense of this little bitty baby looking at me to take care of it, looking at me with loving eyes, and I just could not abandon that baby. You know what I'm saying? I wanted to take care of it, even though my brothers and sisters did their part to spoil her, you know. But for me, it was like I got to get myself together. I got to put this pain and stop going out and partying like all of this here stuff. You know what I'm saying? And take care of my child. I got to go get me a really good job. I got to go back to school. You see what I'm saying?
So you had to learn how to do things for yourself.
Right. We didn't have
Mhm.
parents to kind of like
Mhm.
guide us. I had graduated high school and my mom died that November. So we
Mm.
graduated August, mom gone November. Dad left.
Wow.
Okay. So what I'm saying is that with we had to learn everything for ourselves. None of us had got no jobs before. So me and my sister, we went out and got jobs.
Okay.
Okay. 2 years later I got pregnant. All right. But I was never
Mm.
like really okay, Marlene. That was
But you were like, you know how like they say you can be going through life, but you're not experiencing life.
it was like
You're just going because you know you got to do it. You know you got
right.
to pay your bills and but you're not enjoying it.
No, I didn't. I don't think I started enjoying a bit of life is when I had Cicely, my baby,
Hmm.
and she gave me hope.
Mm.
Like I had somebody to really, to do stuff for, not just myself. You understand?
I
And
understand.
so
Mhm.
I always tell her that, you saved my life because I wasn't even really living. Yeah, I was just going through the motion, just because my sisters and brothers needed us. They were
Mm.
young. Me and my sister was the oldest. We were 17 and 18.
Wow.
So my
Mhm.
younger sisters, they didn't experience a lot like we did. Okay.
When that trauma happened to you when your mom died and your dad left, you had to grow up
Right,
faster
right,
than
right.
other kids. You probably didn't get to experience things that other kids your age got to do.
No, we couldn't go to college, nothing.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Wow. Yeah. And that's a trauma too. That you and did you ever have that resentment that I want to go to I want to do this and I want to go and party. I want to be
Yeah,
a young child, but I can't because I got to grow up.
because we had to take care of our sisters and brothers, even though we were living with relatives. They can only do so much, but we really had to look after each other, you
Mhm.
know. So all of that was my whole life to me was a trauma.
Mhm.
It was just when I look back on it, it still brings tears to my eyes
Yeah.
because I really It's like I don't know how I made it through all
Well,
this.
I can think I think I understand the reason why you made it through that is because we don't understand when we're going through something that something bigger is coming down the line for us. Sometimes God is putting us in a position to meet certain people or to learn something or to for you to get into your business and your purpose in your life. So
Yeah,
that's my personal belief. I can't speak for everybody, but I believe that we go through situations in our life. We get an awful romantic relationship or we get a bad job or we get disrespectful friends or we get people in our families that don't appreciate us for us to go and find people who will love us and support us. That's
yeah,
okay. Keep on I'll keep talking. Handle yours, Gio. Yes, wellness. So I believe that 100% that sometimes our we go through situations in our life, we go through traumatic events in our life for us to learn things about ourselves. I always say that we don't understand sometimes how strong we are until we go through a situation and be like, man, I did get through that. I did learn something. We find out how strong we actually are after we go through something.
yeah. But sometimes Marlene, sometimes I still look at my life. It's amazing that I'm incredible to,
Mhm.
to
You
have
are.
fun. And so is my oldest sister Beverly. And the rest of my the sisters and brothers, we all are amazing because we
Mhm.
made it through, you know?
Mhm.
And I just think sometimes it's just by the grace of God. And these tears is not about sadness, really. It's about just being free
Mm.
of,
And being strong.
yeah, of all of that, And when you've been through something, and you just it's like wow, it's like a movie, but it's
Yeah.
really not. It really happened, you
It's
know.
a real life.
Right. But like I said, I didn't know what was happening to me and how come I couldn't have a great relationship. I could meet some really nice guys and uh fine chocolate brothers, what I'm saying? But I just couldn't keep one. I don't, they all was walking away. They would do this and then they go do that. So I had no
Mm.
idea I was setting myself up for abandonment, which is one of the traumas that I went through. The other was I was just sad because I had not have actually really faced the pain of my mom's death. I had not
Mhm.
really cried about it. I think I fake cried at the funeral because it was
Yeah,
too much.
it was too much.
Right.
And
And
I think sometimes, Geo, too, sometimes when we go through certain situations and because we haven't healed from it, we choose somebody just like a person who brought the pain.
right.
Because I don't know if you've done that, but I did that with certain situations. You choose
Right.
somebody like what you're used to.
Right, like my father.
Mhm.
Okay, child. Okay, that's another whole deal we're gonna get to.
Yeah.
But and so during all of this time, I did not make it to therapy till I was what, maybe 32 or something
Mhm.
like that. And so the way that I got there, like I said, I had been partying all night long. I got home about 4 o'clock in the morning, and
Ooh, you had a good time.
it was after hour clubs and there. I knew them all, baby, because that was my drug. Not to have to think about stuff. Now I did not
Mhm.
do, like through the weekdays and things like this one particular night that I did that. And I knew I had to go to work and I knew I don't miss work. And I'm always at work, staying late. I was a very good employee. I always made my money, baby. Okay.
Yes.
So I got to work that day. I had went home by what 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. Maybe had 2 hours sleep. Got up, showered, went to work, and I was working for these scientists. I was administrative assistant for scientists, and I think I had about like six of them that I would type up their manuscripts. But this particular day, this manuscript was talking about death.
Mm.
Okay, what? And I was just typing it and typing it, and all of a sudden, it's like this
Mm.
overwhelming deal came down on me. I could not stop crying.
Hmm.
I could. Whatever I was typing brought me back to that day.
I think it was processing in your mind. It probably was bringing you back to the time where you experienced the death.
Right. And I could not stop crying. I put my head on that desk and I just could not raise it up. It was like a big foot was on my neck or something. It was just too much.
Yeah.
The
I think that's probably was the first time you had actually allowed yourself to grieve.
Right. And it was just overwhelming. So my supervisor came. They ran. I remember the girl, my friend that worked behind the desk behind me. She came and she tried to help me. She said, Gio, what's the matter? I couldn't talk. I couldn't get up. I couldn't do nothing but cry.
Mm.
So the supervisor came. They couldn't do nothing with me because I couldn't move. And she just let her cry. Just let her. Y'all go into the conference room. Just let her cry. So that was about. Seemed like it to me about 3 hours, but it might have been an hour.
Mhm.
You know.
Yeah.
And so when they heard me just sniffling, she came in there and she asked me, what is wrong? We so worried about you. So I told her, what it was. And so she went and got the CEO of the darn department. You know,
Oh.
get him. He came in there and he said, "What? Why didn't you tell us you went through this as a kid and this and that and that? We would have got you help a long time ago." And I just looked at him like because he was
Mhm.
concerned, you know. And he said, "Well, we're gonna get you some help now. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about no. We're not even gonna let you use your sick time or nothing. We're gonna just pay you.
Mm.
You and I used to,
Wow, what an opportunity that is, because how many places is just going to let you have the time off
you
and you
know,
get paid?
it was a miracle. It was a God working His deal. Cause girl, I'm a black girl.
Mhm.
And back in the day, I mean, I'm just gonna put it out there because this is what I have experienced in my life. And I was like, you gonna do that for me? You know what I'm saying? And honey, he did it.
Mhm.
And he said, you cannot come back here until your therapist say you can come back. We will pay you. Don't worry about it. He
Mm.
said, you and your daughter, I didn't even know he knew Sissy's name. I used to bring
Oh,
Sissy there with me all the time.
oh, okay.
'Cause she used to stuff envelopes for them, and they would
Oh,
kind of pay under the table.
oh, that's sweet.
Yeah, I used to because I wanted to train Cicely, my daughter, how to work and how to be
Mhm.
independent. And I wasn't like a complete mess. I did have my senses. I was a very good mother. You know what I'm saying? And
Mhm.
so everybody knew who she was. So I used to leave work. They used to let me leave work to go get her from the nursery to bring her there.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's how you know. And she used to stuff envelopes for them. Her and two other three
So
other.
cute.
So I really had a great job. But anyway, so he told me that, and I found somewhere to go, and then I found a therapist, and then that's when my journey of tackling this grief and the traumatic death of my mom and being abandoned. But when I went,
But Gio, hold on a second. You didn't say, I know because I know the story, but you didn't say that they say you couldn't come back until you got therapy.
yeah, that's what they said.
Yeah. So I'm just clarifying that for the audience because
Yeah,
you didn't say that part.
my
Yeah.
CEO and supervisor say I couldn't come back. Now you know that was a good job with a good check, girl. I had a battle with that. I didn't want to go
Yeah.
to therapy.
Yeah. Now, Jill, come on, honestly. Nobody wants to actually go to therapy, but you
No,
want to get some relief. Like you got to find what do I need to do so that I don't have to be in pain like this?
right. That's all I wanted.
Hmm.
But the deal is, you got to go and talk about it. Ain't nobody want to talk about that. Let me just put on my mini skirt and put boots and let me go dance to the way. Have a few drinks and whatever else I'm gonna do. That's
Hmm.
what I wanted to do, but he told me I couldn't come back
Mm.
until I got some therapy. So I was like,
Mm.
Lord have mercy. So I had 30 days to get it all done and find a therapist. So I did. And I wound up with one of the best therapists I could have ever. I didn't pick her. My girlfriend said you should go to my therapist. Because I called
Okay.
her up like, woo, woo. And she said, oh, don't worry about it. I have a therapist. I said, she a therapist? And she said, yeah. I said, why? And she told me, girl, I just started crying again. She was
Mm.
crying and I was crying. So I called her therapist, and that's how I met her. And she was one of the best things that could have happened in my life because she was a believer. She
Mhm.
helped me find my way back to God.
Mhm.
She helped me realize that I don't have to be where I am, that I don't have to let what happened to my mom and my dad uh, ruin my life or make me act out. That there is a better way to think about it. Yeah,
Yes.
it's okay to cry about
Yeah,
it.
it's okay to not stuff everything inside like a lot of us do when it comes to traumas.
That it's okay to have a support team to talk to whenever you're feeling bad. She helped me understand that the reason why uh, the guys that I picked was just like my dad. They wasn't reliable. That they was
They
gonna,
weren't mature.
yeah, and that that's how come the guys that I picked, even though I didn't want no men like my dad, trust me. But when you have been raised up in dysfunction, and that's all you see, you say
That's what you're gonna
that's
do.
what you
Yeah.
gonna do, no matter how bad you don't want to. Okay,
Yeah.
so that's the kind of guys I was picking. And then after I found that out, ooh, I was mad at my daddy.
All over again. Hmm. Yeah.
Oh, it took me a long time to forgive my father.
Mm.
It really did.
Yeah.
But
So how did you I know you say it take a long time for you to forgive your father, but how long did it take for you to forgive yourself for holding on to that?
maybe about a year.
Ooh, you did good. You did
Yeah,
good.
but I'm not too
Mine took me about 5 years for me to
bad.
let go of myself.
My fault. So why would I want to hang on to it?
Mm.
You see, when I found out that half the stuff that my parents did the best that they could with what they had and where I got it from, it was easier for me to forgive Geo for some of the stuff that I done because that's
Mm.
all I knew.
Yeah,
So why?
you're doing the best you could.
Right? She taught me compassion for myself, how to give myself compassion. You know, like I know if I
Hmm.
know, I would have done something about it,
Yeah.
but I ain't know. So a lot of people that do stuff, they keep doing it over and over and over. That's because they don't know that's all they ever done, and they think they right.
Yeah, and we're not. I had to learn that too, Gio. I had to learn that too to give myself like for me, I'm a person that I will freely forgive other people, but then I won't forgive myself. I can be like when they say you can be your own worst critic. I can be so tough on myself. And even till today, I've always been that way. I should have done better. I should, and I
Yeah.
have to say, stop that, stop that.
But you
You did
don't
the
know,
best you can.
yeah, you don't know that there is a better way because you did not come up learning that from your family. You
Mm-hmm.
come up learning and see your mom and your dad was your heroes. So
Yes.
whatever they said went, and you did
Mhm.
what they did. So then you come up and you find out at 32 years old that some of that was not right. And
Dysfunctional and toxic.
right. And I was mad. I think I stayed
Mhm.
mad at both my parents for a little bit
Mm.
because I'm like, look at the scars y'all left us with to deal with. We got to deal with what you guys learned from your people. You know, I said I'm not teaching my daughter that. You know, she's selfish because she's the only child, but I'm not teaching her all that stuff that I learned. I really worked hard on myself in therapy. I stayed 5 years, you know, because I was not walking out of there until I knew I had all the tools that I needed to combat this trauma. Because trauma, some traumas like the ones I have, don't leave.
Mhm.
They
They stay with you forever.
they do. And what you have to do is know the red flags. What you
Mhm.
have to know have is the tools to say, baby,
Mhm.
I don't want you up in my life because you remind me of my daddy. I don't
Yeah.
deal with dudes that remind me of my father because I can't deal with that. I'm not going back to no therapy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm not missing no money, I have worked for myself today.
Mhm.
No, ma'am. I'd rather be. I'm happy. I'd rather be single. I'm gonna tell you the rest of my life than to have somebody up in my life that's
Mhm.
gonna pull up this trauma because it is just so hard to get over. You know, I'd rather
Mhm.
be single the rest of my life.
Yep. Then have somebody that will take advantage of you.
Well,
Mhm.
you know, you have to go get help.
Yeah,
You,
you have to, and that's one of the things that I know that a lot of times in the many communities we don't like to talk about therapy. There's a oh, everybody's like, oh, therapy, you're going to therapy, and everybody's like, oh, they're crazy, and all kind of things, and they'll laugh about you and all those things. But the majority of people who laugh and make fun of people who go to therapy is because they actually don't want to unearth, they don't want to bring up how they felt and what they went through. It's more comfortable for us to live in a lie than to face the truth.
that's why I put on the miniskirt and the boots. Yes, I'd rather live that lie. It was
Mhm,
easier, you know what I'm saying, than to face the
mhm.
real truth or face the real hurt. Trauma is
Yeah,
something that is not easy to get over. It's not something that you could just put to the side because it's gonna
and ignore.
and wait
Mhm.
for you. You be thinking, well, I'm gonna just go do this and I don't have to feel that. Even these addicts out here, that's why they stay high so much. Because
Yep,
they don't want to feel nothing. Okay?
yep,
But baby, that trauma gonna sit right there.
yep. Until you face it.
Legs and
It-
say, I'll just be patient and wait. And then when you come down off your high, when I got through dancing and all of this here other stuff I was doing, it was right there waiting for me. So guess what Gio had to do? Try to figure out how to get back out there to dance and have a good time.
And do it.
Over
Mhm.
and over and
And
over.
over.
Do if you're going
Yep.
through a trauma, do something about it.
Yes, Jim. One thing that I have to say is I have never been through anything like you, but I have been through a grief part because one thing, the trauma that happened to me is I experienced 5 deaths within my family within 4 years.
Right.
And for some people, like what you said earlier, that for other people, they just say, oh, that's grief, that's not trauma. But for me, that is a traumatic thing because it's like we don't, you never, even when you plan, because the first death that happened was when my father passed away from cancer. We all knew he had cancer, but nobody ever wants to even if you plan, I knew he was sick, but when they finally go, you still like, how dare you leave me? You
Right.
still have that abandonment, like my dad left me, and I don't know about you, Gio, but for me, my father was a protector for me, and I felt when my dad left, like my protection was gone, and
Yeah.
that gave me a trauma too. Like I didn't need, I was mad at him for a long time. Like, why? How could you leave me? And I don't have nobody to protect me anymore. So I had to learn to stop blaming my dad and blaming other people who had left, and start learning to face my own issues
Right.
for myself and stop blaming people. I think that's a part of trauma too. At a certain point, you have to let go and forgive other people and learn to start getting up and being accountable for what I do.
Right. And forgiveness is the key. If
Hmm.
I had not have worked so hard them 5 years just to call my dad and say a couple of things to him that I've been wanting to say, and trust me, I said what I needed to say. But
Hmm.
I also, at the end of that, told him that I forgive him.
Wow.
Forgiveness, I did it for me. And I did it, and I had to practice forgiveness for my dad. I had to actually say, I forgive you, Daddy, and I release you. And everything you ever
Hmm.
done to Jesus Christ, the Holy Father, the Holy Spirit. You know how many times I said that, Marlene?
Hmm.
2 years.
Yeah.
Two whole years. That's what I
Wow.
until it stopped. Until one day I woke up and I didn't care no more. I was
Until one day you were free of it.
right. I wasn't mad at him like that anymore, but I still needed to speak to him about certain things. And so once I spoke to him about certain things, and I already knew what the answer was gonna be because my daddy crazy, okay? But after I got what I needed, then I told him that I forgave
Mm.
him. And that made me even more freer my whole life. That's when my life started. That's when I said, thank you, Jesus. I'm never leaving you. Okay? Thank you for getting me through all of this. And I will tell everybody how I made it through. If you're dealing with a trauma, go get some help, please.
Go get some help. You know, I hate, what I hate to see is, I hate to see all of these people on social media, in real life, in our families, in the communities, and they're angry. And a lot of us are angry, justifiable. Some big major things has happened that will mess up anybody. It
Right,
really will, and mess up anybody. But we can't just say they, you. At a certain point, we're adults now. And now we have to say, now it's my life. What am I going to do with my life? You did
right,
that. And yeah, you hurt me. You messed me up for a while. But now I got to take ownership of my life. I
right.
got to take control.
And that's one of the reasons I put my daughter in therapy as well.
Hmm.
Because before I went, I don't know how much of me she got.
Hmm.
You understand what I'm saying? It was
Yeah.
suggested to me by my therapist to do that. And I did that. So about maybe a good 8 years ago, my daughter told me, you know what, Mom, thank you. She said, first, I was mad at you because you did this. See, she was still like 16 when she went, you know.
Okay.
And she didn't want to go. She thought I was the meanest mom and all of this stuff. And I was,
Hmm.
it takes real guts to be a mom that really, really loves your child And no matter what they say, you're going to do what's best for them.
The best decision.
Okay? It took all I had to put that girl 30 days in therapy because she
Wow.
was so, Mom, you should do this. And I'm not you. And blah, blah, blah. You know what I'm saying? I said, you'll thank me after a while. Let's go pack your bag. I'm not packing my bags. I said, oh, let me pack them for you. Okay, so I threw her stuff in a trash bag. I ain't even bothered by getting no suitcases. That was too much. I was already about to fall apart. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Put that stuff in a trash bag. I say, "Is here's your stuff. It's either the streets or you go to therapy. Which one you gonna do?"
Mhm.
I said, "I'm leaving it up to you." And she just fell out on the floor. Ah,
Wow.
dramatic girl. And she said, "I go to therapy. I go to therapy." And my heart just,
I know, but it's hard. It's hard on both sides. It's hard for you, but it's hard for her too.
yeah, it was hard, but I had to do it because
Yeah.
I seen her going down a road that she shouldn't have been going down.
Hmm.
And I seen behaviors that she shouldn't have.
See, but you know what you did, Gio, is you broke a generational curse.
Right, that's what I'm saying. I was not going to
Hmm.
let her grow up like me or think the things the way I did or any of that stuff. I put her
Hmm.
butt in therapy for 30 days. And like I said, 8 years ago, she came and she said, Mom, that was the best thing you could have done for me because I see things now. I see why I act a certain way. And now I can get in the head of that and stop it before I act out. And I had to go and sit there and listen to her tell me the things that she didn't like about me.
And that ain't,
That was,
that's something.
but I did it for her and myself and for our relationship.
Wow.
It takes a bit. Most people ain't gonna go through that because I'm the mom. You gonna do what I say and this and that. That's how my parents were.
Yeah,
They
that's why I said you broke a generational
right,
curse because for majority of adults, it's do as I say, you
right.
know, and not as I do.
I was determined. She was not going to have to go through what I went through, and then teach her kids that, and then they teach. You know what I'm saying? No,
Hmm.
my
Exactly.
kids, they regular people and they make mistakes and all of this here stuff, but they got goals and dreams.
Yes, I
You-
love that.
So I am glad. And she came to me and she said, Thank you, Mom, for that. I said, I never would have thought you would have said that to me. She said, Yeah, I know.
Mhm.
It's crazy back then. I said, Yeah, we both were.
Mhm.
I said, but I had to find the courage to do what I did for you. And I'm glad that
Mhm.
I did because Sissy has her own business. Sissy's a very good businesswoman.
Wow.
You know,
And she probably would not have had the courage to be that if it wasn't for what you taught her.
right.
Mhm.
She
Yeah.
been in, she has seen me struggle, try to get my own business for many, many, many years, and how I never gave up. That was one thing about me. Even though I had all this trauma behind me, I mean, in my head and on top of me or wherever it was, I never gave up on being my own boss. Never. And
Good.
baby, let me tell you, and when I woke up that day and I was free of that my father and free of the grief from my mom, or learned how to live with the death of my mom, let me say it like that.
Mhm.
Girl, my business, ooh, girl, I was a darn good businesswoman. I mean, I started meeting people. God started putting people in my life. Oh, I had my very first business on the internet. You can tell Geo nothing. Okay? And only thing you could tell me was Jesus Christ. Because see, that's my language today. Okay?
You see, you took your power back. That's the difference. Uh oh, she'll be back. See, that's what happens. That's the difference. You took your power back, whereas a lot of times we allow other things to snatch our power away. We allow other people to take our power away. We allow people to disrespect us, and we do nothing about it. So it's all of those things. Oh, you're back.
Oh, I'm back because I'm
Yeah,
froze on my side.
yeah. It's frozen, but I can see your face now.
Okay, so how you make it unfroze? You can't.
I'm not honestly, I'm not sure,
Well,
but
I'm using the phone, y'all.
that's okay. That's okay. We can still see your face. So let's just get to the end part because we're almost to the end of this discussion.
Okay.
I just want you to share what are some things that helped you to be able to cope with your trauma.
Um, let myself cry when I think about my mom, you know,
Mhm.
or if I get triggered by watching a movie or something like that, I can let myself cry.
Mhm.
I write in my journal, dear God, Jesus, and the Holy Spirit, BIA my mom. Tell my mom I'm doing good. You know, the kids are fine, the grandkids are fine. Oh, she just had a great grandkid. You know,
Mhm.
stuff like that. I'm doing well with my business, you know, stuff like that. I just say stuff like that, and then I just leave it in my journal, read it out loud, and leave it in my journal. Is how I deal with my grief
Mhm.
from my mom. It's you know, I just love what, and then a part of the trauma too is that I never got to know my mom as an adult. You know,
That's
so,
hard.
that's how come I write in my journal. Okay. And then as far as the abandonment and stuff like that, I just say, to my father, I just write, dear God, Jesus, and the Holy, because neither one of us are here anymore. Uh,
Mhm.
even though Dad, you was this, that, and that, and that, I do. I write that in my journal. You know,
Yeah.
I just want to thank you for your business spirit that I got from you because that's who I got it from.
Okay. So
Father,
now after everything, even after the pain, I think because you went to therapy, you actually learn. Now you know how to show separate it and not just be angry all the time. Now you can actually see where they've helped you and how they help
right,
you to improve.
right.
Mhm.
I think I need to X out and come back in, Marlene.
Well, I you can if you think you can.
Yeah. Well,
Okay.
the only thing I can tell people what to do is to go get help.
That's
And
it.
don't say I got this. Because if you had this, then you wouldn't be acting the way that you act.
Mhm.
I,
Yeah, if you were okay, then you wouldn't be a complainer. You would know how to be consistent. You wouldn't be an angry person, and you wouldn't keep choosing the same type of people over and over again.
right, if you were okay.
Mhm.
But first off, you have to admit to yourself something wrong. I knew for years, I kept saying something wrong with me, but I didn't know what to do.
Mm.
I truly didn't know what to do, Marlene. I just kept saying, why I keep picking these kind of people? Not only just guys, but girls in my life too that were
Yeah,
friends with me, and then all of a sudden they just dropped me. Like
yeah,
have a friend that done that. That bothers me, and I'm
yeah.
like, oh, I don't want to pick these kind of people. But sometimes these people just come in your life, and it ain't your fault.
They creep in, and what it is that people come in as wolves in sheep's clothing, and sometimes it's our fault because we saw red flags, but not all the time. Sometimes they conceal who they were.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Hmm.
Mhm.
Anyway,
But anyways, I feel like this has been a wonderful discussion, and I appreciate everything that you shared with us. I know that it's not an easy thing to talk about your traumas, and I truly appreciate your transparency. And any final words that you want to leave with everybody about trauma and and how they shouldn't give up even in the face of the trauma and the difficulty.
Right. Hmm. Just know if you're suffering from I can only speak about, where I come from. If you're suffering
Mhm.
from a childhood trauma like I did, abandonment, most of the time, guys, it is not your fault. You just need somebody to tell you that it is not your fault. It is not your fault. But the only way sometimes you're going to get there for people to tell you that is you got to go get help from somewhere. The minister, your minister, if you trust them enough, okay?
Mhm.
The best thing to do is what me and Marlene did. Well, I got sent to the therapist, but I'm glad,
Mhm.
is to get somebody that you can talk to. You don't even have to leave your house. You can do this online.
Yep.
That's it, Marlene.
Okay. Thank you so much for sharing that. I appreciate your support. And to everybody who tuned in, whether live or if you're watching on the replay, I know that everybody goes through traumas in their life. Like the title says, everyone has traumas, but don't suffer alone and don't suffer in silence. Face it, talk about it, find a therapist, get a solution, but don't be angry and blame yourself your whole life. Thank you so much, Gio,
Bye bye.
for your support.
All right. Bye bye, everybody.
Bye. And thank you to everybody who tuned in. Shout out to all my amazing mods. Thank you so much to all my channel members. I'll see my channel members for a member only live at some point tomorrow. Yeah, all of those things. I hope you guys enjoyed the marathon. Thank you so much, everybody, for the 30 likes. For everybody who left some thoughts. But I want you all to know that you're not alone. Sometimes we feel alone when we go through painful situations, stressful situations, disappointments, abusive situations, and all of those things. But we're not the only people. Everybody goes through traumas. So, thank you for tuning into this discussion. If you're new to this channel, make sure you do all of those YouTube things like, subscribe, share, join my channel membership so you can be a part of member only exclusive perks. And I will definitely see you all back next month for the next member only. Um, Everyone has its marathon. Thank you for tuning in, everybody. I will see you all on the next one. I appreciate everybody's support. Bye bye, everybody.